And if you're interested in helping with that, please see Renee Lane. And also, November 23rd, 2 weeks from today, is our Thanksgiving feast. And that will be immediately following the morning service. And then that night will be over in Porter, just on 40, our fellowship Thanksgiving unity service with all our fellowship churches together. And that will be at 6 p.m. and there will be refreshments afterwards. And there's also a sign up on the back if you're interested in helping clean up with our Thanksgiving feast here at the church. And let me open us in a word of prayer. Dear God, thank you for this night that we can come together, and for everybody that's here tonight, and just help us listen to what's said tonight, that we can all pull something out of it useful to better live our lives for you. Amen.
All right, good evening. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them Christ alone my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are still, when striving cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand. In Christ alone, who took on flesh, fullness of God in helpless babe, this guilt of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones he came to save, till on that cross as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid, here in the death of Christ I live. There in the ground his body lay, light of the world by darkness slain, then bursting forth in glorious day, up from the grave he rose again, and as he stands in victory, sin's curse has lost its grip on me. For I am his, and he is mine, bought with the precious blood of Christ. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I'll stand. Pastor Jeff.
We get to have some fun tonight because we get to start somebody new. And we'll find out who that is in just a moment, which means I'm not even going to have you pass out the papers yet. Who was the first king of Israel? Silas? No. That's Misa. Saul was the first king of Israel. Wow, that was really off. All right. Saul was the first king. Who was the second king of Israel? Silas. David. There you go. All right. David was the second king of Israel. Saul and David reigned over one united kingdom of 12 tribes. Technically, there was a little weird part in there in the middle with David and Saul. You guys remember that? All right. But after David and Saul, after Saul, then David, when David's son came in, then there was Jeroboam and there was Rehoboam and everything split. And you ended up in this big mess. You had 10 tribes that most of them went with one, and they called themselves Israel. Then you had 2 tribes, and they stayed here with David's line, and they called themselves Judah, although they were the tribe of Judah and Benjamin with a few people from this and a few people from that. Okay? So you have a split kingdom. During this time frame is where we find our prophet that we're going to study this time. What prophets? Not Samuel, although he would have been fun, but Samuel's tied a lot with David and Saul, so we didn't do that because we already did David. Mr. Nick. Well, you're going to have to pick one. There you go, Elijah. All right, that being said, can I get those two? One's named Sophia, one's named Maisie. There we go. Maisie and Sophia, I'll let you girls pass those out, and I'll throw a piece of candy on. Hey, they stayed there. All right, piece of candy on the seats. All right, we are going to jump into the prophet named Elijah. We're going to study his life and the things he did. Now, we're not going to go straight through the book of 1 Kings because there's going to be some gaps when other prophets are doing things, and we're not going to follow them. Our desire, our plan is to follow the man, the prophet named Elijah, and see what we can learn from his life. 1 Kings chapter 16. Meet me there. 1 Kings chapter 16 is where we're going to start, get a little bit of historical background so we know what's going on in the kingdom. All right? 1 Kings chapter 16. Chapter 16, starting in verse 29. Go ahead and turn to 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 29. Just going to read just a couple of verses here in chapter 16. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, the son of Omri, began to reign over Israel. And Ahab, the son of Omri, reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. And Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Lord, more than all who were before him. And if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. So, what two kingdoms are mentioned in these verses? Give me one of them. Judah and Isaiah. That's your name. Nice try, but that wasn't mentioned. Isaac? Israel. Judah and Israel are the two kingdoms mentioned. Now, it's interesting when you get into the book of 1 Kings, the way they start dating and explaining things is, if they're going to tell you about a new king for Israel, they date him by saying, all right, well, it was the 3rd year of this king of Judah when he was reigning, this king of Israel started. And then they'll be talking about Israel and they'll go back to Judah. So they're going back and forth. Now, who does it say, and you may have to look, who does it say is the king of Judah at this point? Do you know, Samuel? Asa. Very good. James, this may get where it's going or it may hit you. Well, it came close. All right. Asa was king of Judah, who was king of Israel. All right, Sam, your turn. Ahab. Ray Stevens just nearly came out of my mouth. Okay. Anyhow, Ahab was the king. Now, now I'm supposed to read. I read 31 too early. So now I'll go back and read chapter 16, verse 31 down to 33. And as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served the Baals and worshipped them. He erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. And Ahab made an Asherah, and Ahab did more to provoke the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel who were before him. What sin is Ahab committing? What is the sin we see in the life of Ahab? What specifically that it mentions right here? Specifically mentioned right here, Maisie. Idolatry. He does exactly what Ezra is all bent out of shape about on Sunday mornings. He picks a wife from another kingdom. She comes in with her God, with her idol, and Ahab says, sure, I'll worship that too. So, now, this is an interesting one. Is Ahab provoking God more than anybody else? Is he? Yes, she gave me a nod. Yes, Ahab is provoking God. It says more than anybody else. Ahab is doing more to make God mad. And they've already had some pretty bad kings at this point. And Ahab is right up there with them. Now, into this situation, now we start chapter 17. This is the political situation right now. Israel has the worst king they've had up until this point. The nation is split. Israel, the northern 10 tribes, their capital is in Samaria. They have the worst king, the most ungodly king they've ever had. So now we get to 1 Kings 17. Now, Elijah, the Tishbite of Tishbe in Gilead, said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years, except by my word. And the word of the Lord came to him, depart from here and turn eastward and hide yourself by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. You shall drink from the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed you there. All right. Which king does Elijah go and talk to? Samisa. Huh? I didn't actually hear what you said. Ahab. You can share that with your dad. Yes, he goes and talks to Ahab. Now, when he goes and talks to Ahab, let's see. Elijah tells the king it's not going to do something. What is it it's not going to do? I got lots of hands on this. All right. Oh, Haley. Rain. That worked even better than normal. All right. Except it still went through the gap in the chair. All right. Elijah says to the king, he says, hey, God has told me you're going to have a drought. It's not going to rain until I say it's going to rain. Okay. So I guess Elijah's pretty important now, right? Might want to keep track of this guy. Might want to know where he is so that you can get him to say it's going to rain, right? Well, where does God tell Elijah to go live? David in the back corner. The brook Cherith. I have no idea. There we go. Oh, that kind of worked. All right. The brook Cherith. He says, hey, there is this river stream place out in the wilderness. Go there and live. Now, who's going to feed Elijah? Silas? Wait, what? Ravens. Ravens and crows are different animals. Huh? Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay, so apparently Silas needs to be my new proofreader. Yikes. Okay, it's bad when you get in spelling advice from your fourth grader. Yeah, typo. It's just a typo. It's not actually spelling error. It's a typo. Was it miskey? Miskey. Okay, so what does God tell Elijah? Who's going to feed Elijah? The ravens are going to feed Elijah, which honestly feels very, very odd. It's really a strange thing to have ravens bringing food to Elijah. God could have come up with all kinds of different plans. Is God required to use ravens? No, he can come up with any plan he wants. God could make food appear right there for Elijah anytime he wanted. But God picks the ravens. He sends him to the brook. Why would you want to be wilderness camping by a brook? All right, I'll go with Isaiah. Water! You got to have water, right? You got to have some water. You can't just drink sand, okay? So he sends him to the brook Cherith. He's got water there. The ravens are bringing him food. Now, here's an interesting one that was pointed out to me when I was a kid. And I just decided that my name was not Elijah. But how many meals does it say Elijah ate? Well, it doesn't actually say how many meals. How many times a day did they bring him food? Zach? Twice. Once in the morning, once in the evening. That kind of leaves out lunch. So maybe he saved some of his breakfast for lunch. I don't know. Maybe the ravens brought him a big something. I don't know. But anyhow, I actually knew a guy, a pastor, who refused to eat lunch. He was like, nope, I don't need to eat lunch. God only gave Elijah more breakfast and dinner. That's all I need. He wouldn't eat. He was kind of an interesting guy. But anyhow, just odd things you pick up along the way. All right, now, do you think that God's plan is perfect for Elijah? Do you think it'll last? Do you think he'll always have what he needs there? Yes, maybe. Well, let's read. 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 5. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord. He went and lived by the brook Cherith that is east of the Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. And after a while, the brook dried up because there was no water, there was no rain in the land. Does Elijah do what God told him to do? Samuel? Try again. Wait, yes. Oh, yes. He does what God told him to do. Zach, give that. Thank you. You're right. You're Silas. Well, see, now all the other parents feel okay when I call their kid by the wrong name, okay? All right. So, yeah, I probably couldn't spell it, so there's that. All right, now, Elijah does what God told him to do. Smart plan, right? He does it. He goes where God tells him to. And when he gets to the brook, what happens? What happens there? All right. Oh, Mimi. Well, okay, that's what happened eventually. Kevin, I got no way to do this without putting you. Oh, and I get, all right. Parents are going to start wearing helmets. Okay. All right. Eventually it dried up. Before, though, the ravens are bringing the bread. They're bringing bread and they're bringing meat. I'm assuming he had some way to cook it. Or maybe it was fish. Maybe the ravens went fishing and he ate raw fish. I think I'd still cooked it. But anyhow, they're bringing in the bread and the meat. But, as Mimi said, eventually the brook dried up. It's not raining. There's no water. So here's a question. Did God's plan fail? This is not a candy question. This is a think about it question. Isaiah, did God's plan fail? No. All right. Isaiah says God's plan did not fail. But the brook doesn't have any water in it anymore. Did he fail? Oh, Sam says it's time for a new one. Zach, do you think it failed? Maybe. I figured that was coming. All right. What? Because God didn't tell him to. How do you know he didn't tell him not to? All right. Interesting thought. He says, Elijah said it's not going to rain till I said it was going to rain. The thing is, if it rains here, then the water is going to be further spread. And it's also, he's hiding from Ahab. And if Ahab knows it's only raining in this one little spot, here's the spotlight. Here's where to find Elijah. Yeah. So he didn't make it rain in one spot. Now, okay, Sam brings up an interesting point. Could God didn't need it to rain to make the brook make water. God could have connected that brook to an underground artesian well that just kept going and never ended. He brought water for the Israelites out of a rock. But the water dries up. Now, what's Elijah going to do? Now, here he is. He's in the wilderness. What's he going to do? Well, chapter 17, verse 8. Then the word of the Lord came to him. Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you. So God says, I got a new plan for you. All right? Where does God want Elijah to go now? Haley. Zarephath. All right, Zarephath. Okay, now, interesting little tidbits from previous times when I've studied this. Zarephath actually was kind of home area for Ahab. He had a lot of personal connection with Zarephath, which is funny because he's in Samaria looking for Elijah, and Elijah goes to Zarephath, his hometown. All right, now, let's see. He tells him to go to Zarephath. Will Elijah obey? Will he obey? Yes, he will obey, because obedience is what we do. Now, Elijah, I don't think I was supposed to answer that yet. I guess we were supposed to wait, but yes. No, it's okay. He will obey. All right, now, how does Elijah know God's plan is going to work? Mo? Okay, God is all-knowing. That was really awful there. All right, he's all-knowing. Sam? It worked last time. Elijah is following God's plan, and God says, Elijah, I want you to go here. He goes there. God takes care of him. Then Elijah can say, hey, my faith is being built. I am stronger now in my faith. And when he says, go find a widow, and she'll provide for you, he can say, well, it worked last time. We'll follow God again. So off he goes. Now, let's see what happens when he gets there. 1 Kings 17, verse 10. So he arose, went to Zarephath, which belongs, no, I skipped. Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, bring me a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to bring it, he called to her and said, bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. And she said, as the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. And now I am gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. What is the widow doing when Elijah gets there? That one is Sophia. gathering sticks. All right? Gathering sticks. As she's gathering sticks, what does Elijah ask for first? What is the first thing that Elijah asks for? Samuel, do you know? He first asks for water. Very good, buddy. He asks for water first. Okay? Simple. And, well, initially you think, well, that sounds pretty simple. Everybody remember in the middle of a drought. So this isn't actually a simple or small request. Now, she's going to go get the water. Now, once she starts to go get to the water, then what does he ask for? Zach. A morsel of bread. All right. He says, hey, can you get me some bread too? A little something to eat. Does she have any bread? Does she have any bread? Muggsy, does she have any? Try again. No, she doesn't. Good answer. Good answer, buddy. No, she doesn't have any bread. She has no bread baked. Now, let's see. Does she have any bread? No. How much flour does she have? Good guess. Very close, too. Not quite, though. All right. Aunt Marcia, how much flour does she have? Just a handful. Exactly. That's exactly what she said. Just a handful. She has just a little bit. Am I supposed to ask this question? How much flour does she have? What is she going to do with it? She's just got enough. She says, okay, I'm going to make a little something for me and my kid to eat. And after we eat it, what does she expect is going to happen after she eats it? I've got a trio. I got a dangerous trio here of waving hands. All right, I don't know which one of you I called on last, so I'll go with Silas. Huh? Oh my goodness, they worked so hard. All right, James, did you catch what they said they were going to do after they ate it? They were going to die. Very good, bud. I hope you like those. She says, dude, we've got nothing. We're going to go eat our last little bit of flour, and that's it for us. We're done. We are going to starve, and we are going to die right there. Now, think about that for a second. Think about your Elijah. You come into town. You're hungry. You're thirsty. And God says, that widow lady over there, talk to her. She'll take care of you. And Elijah's like, oh, she must have a hidden stockpile somewhere. Excuse me, ma'am, could you get me some water? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, how about a little bread? And she turns around. Think about, and seriously, okay? Yes, I think in pictures. I watch the Bible in my head. It's what my mind does, okay? Think about this lady. Hey, would you go get me some bread too? And she looks at him. And all she can think is, I'm going to make just a little bit and then I'm going to go starve to death. And Elijah is looking into her eyes. And how does that feel? God said, you go talk to her. And now she's looking at you saying, I'm about to starve to death. You want me to take the bread I'm supposed to feed my kid and feed it to you? Elijah's in a tough spot. Does she have the resources to feed herself and Elijah? I kind of walked all over answering that question. Mr. Richard. No, I caught him drinking coffee. All right. Mr. Richard says, no, she does not have the resources to take care of him. She doesn't have some hidden stash of flour and oil. She's just got a little bit. Now, why would God send Elijah to her? Two interesting answers to think about here. Sophia, what do you think? Okay, I can't argue with that one. Because he's got a plan. All right, now let's try again. All right, he's got a plan. Isaac Bowser. I love that answer. I was thinking about that. That is a fascinating one. Here is this lady who herself is about to starve to death, and God says, I tell you what, you serve my guy, I'll take care of you too. So you've got that. There's one other huge, glaring reason God would pick the lady with nothing to provide for Elijah. I'll let Sam try. Okay, and therefore, who gets the credit? God gets the credit. Very good. To prove that he can was his initial answer, which is really the key. Because if God sent him to Aunt Marcia's house, who happens to have a stockpile of extra flour on hand, I'm pretty sure she does. Anyhow, if he goes to her house, then everybody says, oh, well, yeah, Aunt Marcia took care of him. But if he goes to the house of a person with just a handful of flour, and God uses that and provides for the rest of the drought, then God gets the glory. And everybody knows God is working. Now, chapter 17, verse 13, let's see how this plays out. 13 down to 16. And Elijah said to her, because remember, she's looking at him thinking, I'm about to go starve to death here. Elijah said to her, do not fear. Go and do as you have said. But first, make me a little cake of it and bring it to me. And afterward, make something for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth. And she went and did as Elijah said, and she and her household ate for many days. The jar of flour was not spent, neither did the jug of oil become empty, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by Elijah. What is it that Elijah does? What does he do? What does he tell her to do before she makes bread for herself? Mimi. What? Make some for him first. Make some for me first. Folks, you want to talk about faith. Elijah is looking into the eye of a lady who said, I've got this much flour left. I'm going to cook it and go die. And he says, make that loaf for me, and then it'll be okay. That's a tough move. That is a move with incredible faith behind it. Elijah tells her to do it. Now, what is it? Oh, well, because I made it general. What does Elijah tell her that God is going to do for her? Zach. All right. He says, it will not run out. It will continue to be there for you. All right. Now, did she do what Elijah told her to do? Yes. Very good. She did exactly what Elijah told her to do. All right. So she does. She does it now. Did God provide for her and Elijah? Nick. Well, that's not the right answer. I'll come back to you. Samuel, did God provide? Yes, he did. All right, Nick, what's your question?
So when it says, till the day the
Yes. Yes. I've seen that before, and I'm going to say, God would not provide for her until, day one rain, you're it. Because believe me, she's going to starve to death before the crops can get grown. So yes, I'm assuming the obvious intent of the passage there is that, yes, God provided for her until there were crops and there was things that she could purchase. So, all right. Here's a question. Did God give her more than she needed by what it said? Maisie? Mo. No. Sorry, Maisie, you're not old enough for me to give you 2 tries. You're not young enough for me to give you 2 tries at yes, no answers. And I say that, I understand what you're saying. He gave her everything she needed. But it doesn't say her little handful of flour turned into a whole huge pot. It doesn't say that her oil became a big pot or that she kept pouring it into a big jug. That's a whole different story when God does that with oil and jugs. But he gave her enough for today. And then tomorrow, she goes to scoop out that last bit of flour and, well, it's still there. And she makes bread with it. And tomorrow she comes back and she goes, and that last little bit of flour is still there. Great. And she makes another one and another and another and another, over and over and over. And God provides what she needs. Because of that, her and Elijah are there living by faith, trusting that God is going to put flour and oil in that pot and in that jar again tomorrow. Over and over again. The first thing we see Elijah doing. This is our introduction to Elijah. Elijah is going to be, I honestly thought about labeling him as the pyro prophet because I kind of identify with Elijah. I kind of like some of his way of dealing with things. It's fun. But we're going to see Elijah do amazing things. In another week or two, we're going to see him do really wild things. But the first thing we see him do is walk up to the most powerful man of his country and say, "You're wrong." And God's going to bring judgment on this nation because of sin. And then we see him leave and depend and trust that God is going to take care of him over and over again. When the brook starts to dry up, he doesn't throw himself down and say, "That's it, I'm done. I'm going to have to figure this out on my own." No, he says, "Okay, God, what do I need to do?" God says, "Hey, go here." And he follows God there. Again and again and again, we're going to watch Elijah follow and do what God tells him to do. Now, that brings us to our memory verse, our verse that wraps it all up. Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. "My God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus." Now, we do need to remember, and this is part of the reason that one question was in there, he doesn't promise to give us more than we need. He doesn't promise to give us all of the extras. He says, "I'm going to give you what you need for tomorrow." And every day the ravens came, or every day there was still flour and oil in that pot until there was another way to provide for that. God will provide for the people who are doing his will. Now, we're not going to go into contingencies, all the other things, but God is going to provide and take care of his people. All right? Any questions about tonight's lesson? Mr. Myron? I never came up with anybody that put a date on Elijah. I will keep looking and see if I find something, but so far, I haven't come up with a date on his age. Interesting question, though. Sam? Yes. The widow was a Gentile. She was a Sidonian. She was not a Jew. You also notice she says, "Your God by your God. She makes a distinction. So here you've got God using not a good little Jewish girl, because I don't think there were much of any of those left in the nation anymore. He uses a Gentile. Interesting things that God is doing to get this done. And we're going to see more of her. We're not done with her yet. There's still more to come with her. Any other questions about tonight? Mr. Gary. In what she had, she did not have enough to cover for herself, her kid, and Elijah. She didn't have enough for all three of them. She only had enough for there. Now, God had the resources, and God would give her those resources. So she didn't have them. God had them. That was the fine point I'm making. I answered that question correctly. All right. I've been looking for an excuse to stick one of those in my pocket all night long. All right. Okay. Interesting. Hang on, let me look. Let me look, because my brain is looking at that different, and I want to see if I'm making it up or if it's here. Let's see. Zarephath. I have nothing. Elijah said, do not fear. First, make a little cake for me, bring it to me afterward. Make something for yourself. Thus says the Lord, the jar of flour will not be spent, the jug of oil will not be empty until the day. She went and did as Elijah said, and she and her household ate for many days. All right, it is vague. It does not say. My thought has always been she had enough to feed 2 people. So she fed one, which means she now does not have, unless God provides extra, she doesn't have enough to feed the 3rd person. Somebody was going to starve unless God provided. So I've always looked at it as that meal for her and her son was the first extra installment of flour and oil. But I see I see the thought process now. She had enough for that day, but she was going to have. But if she had enough, yeah. To me, she only had enough to feed 2 people. Now, I will say, if your wife says, Gary, I have enough flour to make 1 pie, are you going to question how much flour she has? Okay. Now we're degenerating. All right. I would say she was pretty skilled at knowing how far her flour would go, is the point I'm making. Right, that's what I'm saying. She had enough to feed 2. She just gave away enough to feed 1. So, yeah, she was making a choice.
I find it interesting the Lord would use raven because they scrap over full day, and they don't like anybody having food that when they don't gobble it down and shoot
Yep.
everything off.
Yep.
Or here they come and bring it to them.
Yep.
And just drop it and say,
Here you go. Yep. God is in control. Is this a question about tonight's lesson? Huh? Yeah. Okay. All right. Mr. Kevin. Mm-hmm. An Asherah would have been, generally those were thought of as, my Midwest thinking, this is not precisely accurate, totem pole. It was a wooden pole with idol stuff carved into it that they used for worship. I understand my brain says totem pole, and I picture this very American Indian totem pole. That's not actually what it was, but something along those lines. Yeah, it was a place to worship another false god. Good question. All right. Any other quick questions? All right. You have the last question, so Mr. Kevin Beachy, would you close in prayer?